You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
Alrighty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to what is hopefully a happy post-championship weekend here for you in the Week 17. And for those of you that are still playing in Week 18 for your championship for fantasy football, best of luck to you. We'll be here for you to help you out with that. But you're going to have to navigate some minefields of people not playing, team sitting guys, all of that good nonsense. And, it also kind of reminds me that this is probably a happy Matt Flynn type of week as well. I'm just taking shots everywhere.
Why would you bring his dude? I've had a rough enough season as it was, and you have to go take a dig like that. Like, that's not.
It's glorious.
If Case Keenum wins you a fantasy football championship, power to you this week, right?
Yeah.
Although
it would be Jordan Love would be the closest thing to the Matt Flynn, like as
right?
a scenario sequence of events.
Man, Rodgers swears he wants to play, so
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if Jordan Love's going to get. He might get a half. They might chart Rodgers out there for a half.
Shout out to Eli Manning for calling Aaron Rodgers out, saying that he faked his toe injury on the Manning cast. That was good stuff.
Crazy. I'm sure we're going to get into this, but we're through the finals, at least all of my finals. What an abysmal week I had. Abysmal. I was in 7 finals this week. I went 1-6. Like, I ran up against Jamar Chase in 4 of them. Lost every single one.
Yeah. How many Jamar Chase jerseys got bought over the weekend?
Oh, my God. Yeah. And then the 2 leagues where I didn't go up against Jamar Chase, I went up against Rashard Penny. Like, I just couldn't. It happens, right? It happens. It just was one of those things. So I was the first loser a lot last week, and it sucked.
Yeah. You and I were going head-to-head in a couple of those as well. I amazingly had so last week I went 4-1, and it's a 2-week championship, so I've still got 1 left to go here. Where the first week was Week 17 with a little bit left here in Week 18. So far up in that one, but my 1 loss in championship week was the one roster I had Jamar Chase on it. I had Jamar Chase, that performance, had him started, and somehow lost that matchup. And I'll get into a lot of that in our clutch and not so much here. So a little bit of a tease, as Alex likes to say, they say in the biz. So, but yeah, Alex, I know that you had some fun there coming down the stretch there as well.
Well, I mean, no, I didn't, because I got in all of the money leagues that I'm in, I did not qualify for the postseason, or if I did, I was, immediately ousted. So that was not so much fun. This was a fantasy football season that I will not look fondly upon, coming off of a very good performance, at least in the home league during the COVID year. And I guess it took a pandemic for me to finally win the league. So we'll see how I hope that we don't have another one, but I would like to win another fantasy football league before the next one rolls around, I guess. It was I was in the final 3 teams in that mega guillotine league that we played in, that we all started in. There was 24 teams to start that thing. I can't believe that I made it to the final. There was 3 of us left, and I was one of the final 3 standing. Because I did the lone wolf aspect of it. So that was fun. I think I did fairly well last year when we did the guillotine as well. I think I made it pretty far. I can't remember.
I think you were top 4.
Yeah. So evidently I just need to keep playing guillotine because I do okay in those, especially with the auction draft. It's an interesting way that I've learned to do an auction draft for a guillotine league, which is a lot easier than doing an auction draft for a full season, because I'm not so good in that. My high school league buddies with that I went to high school with, that's an auction draft league, and I do not do well in that league at all. So it was pretty dismal fantasy football season for me. Just didn't get the breaks to go my way.
Well, it all happens, and then next season you'll watch them all break your way, which will be fun and nice. Real quick before we get to going into that, we do have a question coming in on Twitter from Peng's Picks. Glad to see you in the chat over there, Peng's Picks. He was glad that we brought up Penny. Who would you rather have next season, Rashad Penny or David Montgomery?
David Montgomery.
Yeah, I think I'd lean David Montgomery too.
If there's no value, right? Like if there's a keeper situation and you have to give up a draft pick or something like that, I mean, you could take a chance on Penny. My biggest thing is, like, there's no guarantee that they're going to re-sign him. Like, they could go fishing. They could bring in, like, a Melvin Gordon because his contract's expiring in Denver, and they could draft a young running back coming in. So Seattle – and if Russ is going to be back or not, like, there's a lot of things going on there right now that I hope you don't have to make that decision today. But mano a mano, I would rather have David Montgomery than Rashad Penny.
Right. Yeah. I would rather have the two guys or the guy that did it for 2 years in a row than the guy that put up for 3 weeks.
I think that there's going to be some turmoil in Seattle, which is something that we haven't really said too much in terms of players. Sure, for like coaching staff and everything, there's been some turmoil in Seattle, but this offseason I think is going to be really large. And with Penny, you don't know if Russ is going to be there, and I don't know that offense looks the same. I mean, it doesn't look the same. We got a preview of it this year. That offense doesn't look the same without Russ. So what's up, MJ? Thanks for tuning in. But I think that, Montgomery is in a system where they have the quarterback in place, and sure, he hasn't played, a ton and didn't play, the majority of the season, as it finished too down the stretch. But there's something there that you can build on. And with Penny, I mean, it's flash in the pan. Don't get sucked into a flash in the pan performance as a keeper selection for next year.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm not going to echo that because my flash in the pan, who I'm really contemplating, is a guy I've been pounding the table for the last 3 weeks, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, home league, peel behind the curtain a little bit, because we assess draft penalties with these players. I picked him up off the free agent wire. Like, I could roll him in, and he's a 22nd round pick. I toss him back out, and he's going to go top 25 wide receivers next year in our draft. There's just no doubt about that. So, I don't know. I mean, I get like a 19-round discount. 17-round discount by taking him in the 22nd round. Like, I don't know. There's some value. And again, it's how it's set up. Like, if you clear the slate and then redo it, yeah, that's one thing. But a little bit of the mental process going through already, thinking about the offseason.
Right. Well, I'm kind of doing the same thing. I've got Travis Etienne as the last pick that I can take there, and it's probably a guy that, we're going to see drafted easily in the top 10 rounds next year, so an extreme discount that I can get there. Ping's Picks got a couple of other things kind of coming in, saying that he's got Rashad Penny being drafted in the 5th to 6th round next season. I could absolutely kind of see that one coming to play with what he did this last 3 weeks, right? He won championships for guys that were out there. A half-point PPR scoring. He was the number 1 running back over weeks 15 through 17, so right there during the playoff run there. And Peng saying the only thing that kind of stops him from that one is if another running back would be drafted there as well, that could damper his draft expectations there. And I could see that happening there as well. Another question coming in here. Jamar Chase has 12 touchdowns his rookie year so far. I believe he actually got to number 13. I could be wrong there. Only one wide receiver has more in his rookie year. Name that wide receiver and how many touchdowns. Guys, care to venture a guess on this one?
Was it not Justin Jefferson last year in 11?
It was not.
It's not Justin Jefferson last year.
No, it was not.
No.
I will venture.
Rookies. I don't play rookies, so this is my problem. Like, I miss out on stuff like this because I don't. I have one share of Jamar Chase across 30 leagues because I refuse to draft and play rookies. Like,
right.
Shame on me.
that it does happen. It does happen there.
MJ with the answer. If you
Was it
don't
Moss?
know,
I was Randy Moss. It was 1998. That was going to be my guess there. Thanks for
I
for
didn't
beating
even look
it
at that.
before I get the guess there.
I didn't even look at that.
Randy Moss had 17 back in 1998 when he was a rookie for the Vikings, and Jamar Chase is actually sitting at 13 touchdowns at the moment there, putting up a phenomenal performance out there as well. So,
for the record, I would have told you Moss had 14, so I would have missed the number of touchdowns.
Okay. So I even had the year. I was gonna even throw out the year on that one. So, but that was there was a question that came up on a different deal. Yeah, just the other day that I had to have known that answer, so I knew that one. But had you asked me that like 4 days ago, MJ23, I would not have been so quick with that answer. So the lots of fun there. Are you talking about Dante Culpepper? Wasn't that who was the quarterback during his rookie season? Pretty sure it was back in 1998. MJ, that's a wonderful thing about having actually watched the NFL back during that time frame. I'm aging myself here a little bit, but Randy Moss was electric back then. Those Vikings teams were fun to watch. So, was it Randall Cunningham? There you go.
Was it?
I'd have to look that one up. I didn't go that deep into it. That's one.
Sorry, I wasn't even talking to you guys.
Alrighty. So, guys, what takeaways you got from the Week 17?
Denver sucks, and they need to fire everybody, and robble, hometown disappointment. The Cowboys just crapped all over themselves. And even with Dak having a decent game, they can't get – the penalties killed them in that game, truthfully. I mean, their performance didn't help. They didn't play very well collectively, but the penalties really hurt them. And that Dallas defense, as good as they have been this year, is extremely vulnerable when they don't create turnovers. Extremely vulnerable. So if you can – even if you're punting – if you can, the typical coach speak, and I hate coach speak, but here's where I'm going to go with it. If you can end each possession with a kick, specifically against that Cowboys defense, you're going to be just fine. Like they are very opportunistic. They create a lot of short fields, which gets to some of these high point totals. But in games where the Cowboys defense has not forced turnovers, they lose. I mean, the one game that they lost where they forced multiple turnovers was the opening week against Tom Brady. So, yeah, I was disappointed in that. I was disappointed with the Colts' performance against the Raiders. So I was a little butthurt about that because I was hoping the Colts were going to give Tennessee a run for their money, and Tennessee keeps on winning. Like, they took a red-hot Dolphins team and just took them behind the shed and beat the crap out of them. So apparently I'm not giving this team enough credit because they did. They looked good. It's just hard to believe that they're the best team in the AFC.
Those two results really shocked me over the weekend because, I do this thing on 538 where I have it's essentially a confidence and you get points if you're right, but there's an equal and more dramatic negative effect if you're wrong. I had the Colts winning over Vegas. I was pretty confident in that. And I lost a lot of points on that. And then same with Tennessee. I thought the Dolphins were just playing too well. And Tennessee is, I figured they were limping to the barn. And I could not have been more wrong on that. So those two results really caught me by surprise. I remember saying specifically at work, and I don't remember if I said it here, but a couple of weeks back when we were looking at all of the teams that were still alive in the playoff picture and how exciting it was because they've added this extra playoff spot. There's an extra week to the season and how exciting it was going to be to figure out who's going to make the playoffs, who's not. I mean, for all of that drama that there was 3-4 weeks ago, there's essentially none of it going into this last week. I mean, we kind of thought at the beginning of the year who was going to be in the playoffs. And for the most part, that came to fruition, and that was just, our thought process on, what teams looked good before the start of the season. And that's pretty much who it was. I think the only real surprise is Cincinnati. You know, like that's the only real surprise. The fact that they won that division, you know, that was a division last year that, you know, Cleveland made the playoffs out of that. Pittsburgh was there. We knew Pittsburgh wasn't going to be great. You know, we knew Ben Roethlisberger was going to, you know, talk about limping to the barn. That this would be, you know, the farewell tour, and hopefully it is, because the guy is just not the same as he once was. But Cincinnati was really the one surprise, I guess, out of all this. And while there are still, you know, playoff positions to be handed out, and not every spot is spoken for at the moment, it's a pretty kind of a blah week to end the season in week 18, just because there really isn't all that much that's up for grabs still. So, you know, it's one of the most epic rants in NFL history, and it is we are who they thought they were, or they are who we thought they were, and it's Coach Green, and I can see him standing at that podium, and we let him off the hook. And all these teams that we thought were going to be in the playoffs, here they are. You know, like that they're in the playoffs. So it's kind of a bummer when that happens, because, you know, you hope for some parity, and credit to the NFL, there was extreme parity for the first, you know, 16 weeks, 15 weeks of the season, where a lot of stuff wasn't figured out. But when it came down to it, water found its level, and here we are with the same teams that we thought were going to be in the conversation for, you know, at least for the Super Bowl. They're still very much the same teams that we thought they were at the beginning of the season.
You know, I do think, though, that the playoff teams, there's more parity. Like, there's not a clear front runner going into the playoffs.
That's fair.
Like we've seen the last few years. Yeah.
So it should make the playoffs interesting. You know, coming into the slate of games for Week 17, there was only 2 games that didn't have any playoff implications in it whatsoever. Now, it turned out to be 3, because by the time the Monday night game hit, the Browns were
eliminated.
Done.
Yeah.
But still, it was for it being kind of looking on paper like kind of a blah Week 17. It actually had a ton of implications. It was just everybody's freaking dinged up. Like, you know, this
is 18 weeks really worth it, right? Like, is 18 weeks really worth it?
Well, and 18 weeks in the middle of a pandemic, right? Like, you mix in injuries plus COVID, and you have a crap storm of no-name guys who are contributing, you know, to real effects on the field. So, yes, it's great that these guys get their shot, because in a lot of cases, some of these guys who are flashing, they may never get a shot. So this has provided depth of NFL rosters to be more imperative than ever, because they need guys that you can plug and play and do that. But at the same time, some of the quality still is quite suffering. Like, the game is not looking good at this moment. There's a lot of teams trying to still, I'm not going to say to still find themselves, but get a rhythm with the players that they have available. You can tell they just look a little off.
Absolutely. Alex, I did like your tie-in there with they are who we thought they are. Coach Green, going back to MJ23's deal earlier. Coach Green was the coach of the Vikings during that time span there. So
Cardinals plan that, but
he was. Game.
Yeah, I know, but Coach Green was the Vikings coach.
Back during Randy Moss's
Randy Moss. Sorry,
yeah.
You were talking when he said the Rams.
No. I was talking about Coach Green being the coach, and so nice little tie-in there from earlier in the show. So, couple of things there. Pings Picks actually joining us over here on YouTube, switching from the Twitters. Like it, Pings Picks. So, guys, if you're posting on Twitter, we'll get your comments in here best we can. Best way is to head over to the YouTube though. Sign in, and we can pop your comments right up here on the screen. Bill Romanowski, good to see you in the comments here again. Looks like he's got a football question. He's torn between starting A.J. Dillon or Elijah Mitchell. Any suggestions? It's Elijah Mitchell all day and twice on Sunday for me.
Yeah, that's a game. It's got implications, right? Like A.J. Dillon, that game means nothing to the Packers.
Correct.
So to me, you play the player that's playing in the most meaningful game, and that's Elijah Mitchell.
Yep.
That matchup against the Lions is so juicy, though. That is so juicy, because you know that they're not going to trot out Aaron Jones and have him take a ton of carries. They're going to let the younger, you know, big-bodied back just kind of plow his way through, especially in the second half. Like, That is so tempting to play A.J. Dillon. I
will say, I guess this isn't as cut and dry as I was making it, but Kevin, you're right. Who knows what the Rams are going to put out there, because, they've already obviously clinched their playoff spot. I think they can still get the number 1 seed with a lot of help. Number 2 seed. Oh, so that's it. Well, home field still. So that's, something that they, they're obviously still playing for something too. But you're right.
I like Mitchell by a hair. I do like Mitchell by a hair, because there is a real thing that, because the Packers have already wrapped up the number 1 seed, as much as Rodgers wants them to go out there and play, they might play a quarter, they might play a half, but there is a better than likely possibility that any sort of player with name value, meaning Rodgers, Adams, Dillon, and Jones, are all gone in the second half. They will trot out, Allen Lazard to play tailback if they have to.
No.
And do something like that. And I know they have other running backs on the roster. I'm just, but for
I wouldn't be surprised if we see somebody, maybe gets hurt.
Well, and
clear a spot for a practice squad guy.
Right. And Mitchell's been gold. When he's been healthy, he's been gold. He's getting consistently over 100 all-purpose yards. He fairly regularly finds the end zone. Like, they don't have any issues passing him the ball in the red zone or letting him run it between the tackles. So I think, for the sake of a game's worth of volume, I'm going Elijah Mitchell, because I don't trust the fact that A.J. Dillon will play the entire game. And you still don't have a great feel for how that split's going to work. Is it still, 60-40 Dillon right now? Or are they going to start getting a playoff mode where I do think that they lean on Aaron Jones a bit more for some relief in the passing game? And you see that shift a little bit here as they get ready for the playoffs. So Mitchell for me, but by a hair.
Gotcha. All righty. I
will offer this piece of advice to Bill. Do your due diligence. Go find some Packer reporters, trusted Packer reporters. Follow them on Twitter or whatever. See if they're getting a sense of what is happening there. To understand how many people, who's going to play, what's kind of, are they letting out any cats out of the bag before this game starts, and then kind of let that help you. But I would lean Mitchell, but make sure that you're doing your due diligence, that right before game time you're double checking.
Right. And you're right. The matchup for Dillon is juicy, playing Detroit, but they don't have anything to play for. And to Kevin's point, Aaron Rodgers wants the team to go out there and play. Matt LaFleur has also come out there and said that they're going to approach this week like any other week, and that they're going to plan on going out there and playing. But I just don't see that happening. I think that you'll get a quarter, maybe a half out there, like he's saying. And the big
finishing, right? Like, right. We all believe that they will play. It's the finishing the game. Correct. And how long they play.
Right. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they've got the first round bye already locked and sewn up. You don't necessarily want to give these guys 2 weeks fully off there, right? Like, you want to let them go through their, because all humans are creatures of habit, things like that. So you want to let them go through their progression, prepare the same way they do every week, stay sharp from that aspect, go into the game, get the warm up done, play a little bit. But I'm going to view this as more of what we see in the preseason typically happen, where the starters get 2, maybe 3, 4 drives in, and then they're done for the day. And you see the backups, and they really take some shots on and see what the rest of the roster has to go, and some of the depth pieces, so that they can see what they've got towards next year. Because it is, it's one of the few times that you can do that, where you can get meaningful snaps for some of these guys, even though the game doesn't necessarily matter for the organization, but they're playing real competition down the stretch here in actual season. So Bill saying that great breakdown. My league pays 500 to first. Appreciate it. Well, Bill, go out there and get those cash and trophies. Let us know when you win that one. Always love hearing folks getting that cash and trophies there. Guys, any other thoughts on any of these questions coming in?
No, not that we haven't tackled yet.
Alrighty. Let's go ahead and we're going to head on over into some pines and some shines. And Kevin, we're going to start things off here a little bit different. We're going to start with the shines here. So just for everybody out there, I was trailing Kevin by 2 picks coming into this one. Kevin had to go over, and I had to hit both of them just to tie him. And Alex was out last week. We didn't get a chance to get his picks in here. So, but we're going to start with the shines here.
I'll go. And I missed on my shine. I had Ronald Jones going up against the Jets defense. The Jets did a good job against Tampa Bay there for about 3.5 quarters and really bottled up Ronald Jones. And then he ended up leaving the game with an injury, but it was later in the game, which is no excuse to his kind of a poor performance here. So he only 10 carries, 26 yards, 1 reception for 1 yard. Rojo was a miss in championship week for me.
Alrighty, my shine was a shine that hit very, very big. Rashad Penny going out there, 25 carries, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns, additional 2 receptions on 3 targets for 15 yards, finished as RB1 on the week. So that was a hit. That brought me to within a game of you, Kevin. And the question is, coming down the stretch, are we going to be able to pull this off and catch you here? Let's go ahead and head over to the Pines. So my pine, I called for Michael Pittman, who had a serviceable game, but still finished well below his projections. Wide receiver 44 on the week for half-point PPR, scoring 6 for 6 with 47 yards. I'm going to count that as a hit.
Yeah, I'll give you the hit on that. Definitely did not put up the he's outside of wide receiver 3 territory, so I completely agree with that. My pine came from the same game as Ronald Jones, and the first series in this game was a little scary because one Mr. Michael Carter at one point had 2 carries for 52 yards. That's how he started the game. He then finished the game with 1 more carry for 2 yards and a reception for 9 yards. So that leads to 3 carries, 54 yards, 1 reception, 9 yards. So Michael Carter was a hit as he did not reach his mark there. So I was able to squeak this one out by a single game against Derek in our internal Pine and Shine championship week.
You got me. That it did come down to the wire. We made it a competition there. It was a lot of fun. But congrats to you, Pine and Shine champ, for 2021. Nice job there. Bill saying that St. Brown propelled me into the championship. Hope he can put up something against Green Bay. There's nothing else. Detroit's been out there fighting, and Amon-Ra St. Brown has been the number 1 wide receiver in half-point PPR scoring over the course of the playoffs here. And I know that on Sunday, Bill, you chimed in on that one, that you were a little nervous of starting that one. I said, don't you fret, you play him. He'll do some good things for you. And I'm glad that one panned out for you. So,
I think you'll be okay this week again.
I think
you're going to see the same thing. You're going to see 12 targets, 8 or 9 receptions, somewhere in the neighborhood of 90 yards. Apparently, they're giving him carries out of the backfield now, so we'll see what he can do there. But I do think that he will be a good Week 18 wide receiver for you, going up against a Packers team that we don't know how many of these guys are going to be playing come the second half, and he could feast come, middle, third quarter, fourth quarter, when you just start racking up points and padding that lead. So play him with confidence this week.
Absolutely. Guys, let's go ahead and head on over into the clutch and the not so much. Who came up clutch? Who was not so much for you?
My clutch was Amon-Ra St. Brown.
There you go.
I could add Tom Brady to that list for a couple of different leagues. He ended up getting there at the very end, 400 yards passing, three touchdowns. So Tom Brady got me there, but I figured that was a little too, off the top. So again, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Elijah Mitchell did have a pretty decent game, 100 total yards, got the touchdown. And outside of that was about it for my team. My championship week did not go well, fellas. Like I played the horses that got me there. And and those horses never left the barn apparently because it was ugly.
My clutch. This was in the guillotine league, so the only league that I was still shot in, and that was David Montgomery, who scored 2 touchdowns. He had 24 carries for 64 yards, 2 touchdowns, caught 2 balls, added 17 yards there. Unfortunately, he threw an interception, which is not what I expected to be talking about with David Montgomery, but he still had a higher than projected output there, and it was much appreciated, although it didn't get me there. A very good honorable mention, but Kevin already talked about him. Amon-Ra St. Brown, because Kevin was pounding the table on him, and there was only 3 players left in this league. I was able to snatch him up, and he was pretty clutch for me as well. So Amon-Ra St. Brown also came in big time for me.
Now, I didn't see the Montgomery interception. Was it the same play that Georgia ran against Michigan for their second touchdown of that butt whooping?
I have no idea. Took? I didn't see it either. Okay. In fact, me looking at this right now is my first knowledge of him throwing an interception. So
honestly, I paid zero attention. I paid zero attention to that Giants-Bears game. That was one of the 2 games that had absolutely no interest, and I had 0 dogs in that hunt for championship week. So I don't blame you.
Yeah, I had a couple in that hunt that I had to play. Darnell Mooney was one of them, and David Montgomery was the other one.
Mooney got a touchdown though, so
yes, he did.
Mooney panned out as a solid flex play for you, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I ended up winning the championship in that league that I had, because that was one that I asked you about. Do I go David Montgomery? Do I go or not David? Do I go Darnell Mooney? Do I go Devonta Foreman? Do I go with Darwe Ngumbawale there? And ended up going with Darnell Mooney. And the other option that I could have gone with would have been a very nice option with Devonta Foreman there as well. He ended up having a monster game there too. But Darnell Mooney did exactly what I needed him to do for a flex play, and outperformed his projections, did very, very well, and ended up coming home with the championship in that league. So cannot complain about that one there.
See, we're even helping each other, guys. It's not just lip service. We try and help each other too.
Absolutely. The only time that's off the table is when we're matching up against each other. It's the only time that's off the table. But so, my clutch was I ended up picking my team that didn't win the championship there. But my clutch for that team was Jamar Chase, who went absolutely nuclear. 11 receptions, 12 on 12 targets, 266 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, good Lord. How did the Chiefs forget he's on the field so often?
I don't know.
At what point, guys, you see this weekly. You play, and not that Jamar Chase is the same as Tyreek, but that alpha receiver, right? You see that. And at what point don't you just say, okay, enough is enough? If we're going to get beat by Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, then so be it. But Jamar Chase has had enough fun this week. And, Honey Badger, go shut him down and leave him over the top. And it just never happened. He kept getting behind that defense, and he's still running. It was crazy, the performance that Chase put up in championship week.
It was amazing too. Some of those, he didn't even necessarily get behind the defense. They were shorter passes that he'd get there, weave through the defense, make a guy miss, and then outrun everybody to house one. It was just an outstanding, amazing performance there. So, guys, who was not so much for some fantasy rosters?
You have him listed, so I'll pivot off to another one. Aaron Jones was a stinking bust. Justin Jefferson, was a bust because Kirk Cousins couldn't play. We talked about earlier, Michael Pittman, if you were counting on him, was a dud. It was not a great week there. Tyler Lockett, right? DK owners are saying, yes, finally. Lockett owners are saying, really? I couldn't get a single piece of this?
Right?
It was, there were a lot of not great performances in week 17 by, mainstream named guys.
I'll give you two more that you didn't say, and I think I don't want to say they cost me, but they cost me, winning the Guillotine League. Dalvin Cook was horrendous. 9 carries, 13 yards. And George Kittle, who had a pretty spectacular game the week prior. Quarterback change. He just was a non-factor. 1 carry for 6 yards, 1 catch for 29 yards. Like, that was it. So if I would have played Zach Ertz, I would have been closer. And if Dalvin Cook literally would have done anything more than what he did, I'm probably the winner in that Guillotine League.
Yeah. A shout out to Ryan Hicks for the Fantasy First Rounders, by the way. He was the champion of the Guillotine League there, was able to knock off or hold off old Alex here from the good old boys. So shout out to him and the Fantasy First Rounders for winning that one. Mine not so much was one Mr. Ezekiel Elliott, 9 carries, 16 yards, 1 reception on 2 targets for 14 yards. And ouch, like that one sunk, helped sink that championship run, as well as the fact that I also had Ronald Jones on that same lineup there as well. And I just had enough. Also George Kittle on that lineup there too, Alex. So I can commiserate with you on that one there as well.
That's how you piss away a Jamar Chase historic day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and my opponent played Rashad Penny. So it was one of those that Jamar Chase and Rashad Penny kind of canceled each other out there for the most part. And then I just didn't get performances anywhere else. So looks like Bill's chiming in saying that his opponent has Debo, Kelsey, and Jamar Chase. That's a tall order this week. And yes, it will be.
Maybe.
Debo's the one that honestly scares me the most. Like, the Bengals, obviously, they're kind of stuck in that third spot. Like, the Bengals don't really have anything. Well, I guess they could move above the Chiefs if the Chiefs lose. But they'll know Saturday, because the Chiefs-Broncos game is Saturday. So the Bengals will know going into that game, you may not see a whole bunch of Jamar Chase. Like, it might be a Joe Mixon and Tyler Boyd type day if they're just, pivoting things around. So the game Saturday between the Chiefs and Broncos, I do think we'll have some sort of play with that. Now, I do expect those Bengals players to play the game and, again, stay in that rhythm. I don't think that they're just going to sit guys. But beware. Kelsey, yeah, there's always the chance. But honestly, it's Debo that scares me the most, because that Rams defense has been looking a little loose here lately. And Debo thrashed them the first time they played. So I expect the same thing to happen.
Yeah.
Real quick, I'm going to get on my soapbox here. And I hate that we have to answer these questions for you guys because you're playing a final week championship. I hate final week championships, and we've talked about it ad nauseum on this show. We even brought it up earlier. Final week championships should be banned in fantasy football. You should not have to play your championship in week 18. That should be banned. It used to be week 17, but now this year you should not have to play those in week 18 because of all the chaos and the attrition that your teams have to go through. And on top of that, teams that may not play their guys, they may not play their horses. So for all of you that are asking these questions, and I feel for you, because we used to play in our home league. We used to play a week 17, a final week of the regular season was the championship, and it backfired fantastically in my face because Derek had Matt fucking Flynn, who went for 5 touchdowns while I sat and froze my ass off.
440 yards.
I sat and froze my ass off at a Broncos game on that New Year's Day, only to then check my phone later and see that I lost because Matt Flynn put up 5 goddamn touchdowns
and 440 yards.
The crazy thing is, before we pivoted away from that, this is the game that we talk about. But Derek, how many times did you take runner up because
the
same thing happened? I mean, it happened to all three of us because I I remember two distinct runner-ups that I took because the same thing. I had Arian Foster, Matt Schaub, and Andre Johnson on a team. Like, I was Texans loaded, and it was Schaub's, big woohoo year, and Foster was going gangbusters at RB1, and they pulled him.
Yeah,
like they pulled him. I was like, what in the world are we doing here? Lost one, and then another year I had Steven Jackson and his big year for the Rams, and the same type of things. Like, so you're not the only one, Alex. I promise. It did happen to all three of us. There weren't many other guys that were making championship runs, but between the three of us and Kyle, our buddy Kyle, all of us had a runner-up or two performance because we just were.
I want to say his was Michael
stupid
Vick.
To move it.
Michael Vick one year that he went crazy and didn't end up. But that's the point that I'm making is furiously fight to not have to play a final week, a week 18 championship, which it'll probably soon be week 19 here, if owners get their way.
God, I hope so.
So just fight furiously to not have to play in a final week of the regular season championship league. Make sure that you talk to your commissioner. Make sure that you are incessantly annoying about changing the rules, because that's the only way that a lot of leagues will get those rules changed. Lobby the rest of your teams, the rest of your league mates, to get that rule changed, because these are the headaches that you should not have to deal with. There's enough headaches anyways when it comes to fantasy football. You should not have to deal with a final week of the regular season in the championship. It is something that I staunchly believe in. It is one of the few things that the hill I will die on is that you should not play a final week of the regular season championship game in fantasy football. It's one of the few things that I am ferociously believe in, and will defend until the day I die. There are very, very few things that I will do that for, and this is one of those causes. I will start .org if I have to.
That actually could be an off-season project for us.
We'll get
the documentary around
started that for you.
There you go. So that's Alex brings up a good point, because if you stop your championship week in week 17, you don't have to deal with some of this stuff. And you don't have to deal with some of that. And for the most part, you rode. If you got to the championship, you rode your horses a lot of times to get you there. Guys like Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, a lot of these big name players that may only play part of the game out there, because there's nothing to be gained whether that team wins or loses here in week 18 there. And you always want guys that have something to play for when it's all said and done there. So
it's one of those things where real life football negatively impacts fantasy football. And yes, it happens more often than we care to admit, but real life football negatively impacts fantasy football. So it's just something that if you can avoid it, which you can, because you get to make up the rules. It's fantasy football. You get to make up the rules. So if you can't avoid it, you should avoid it.
Absolutely. So, and Smokey the Cat, I know that Kevin touched on this one when he was going through that. I think that you'll see Burrow and Chase play for the most part, unless, of course, that game is fully decided as far as seeding goes before that, when it's all said and done there. So, Bill, I think you're right. Kelsey may not play very well this weekend as well.
I don't think they're going to need him to play well.
No, I don't think so either. And Kelsey hasn't been Kelsey-esque this season, especially down the stretch here. So, thoughts of putting players in with playoff hopes? Yeah, I mean, you want guys with something to fight for and something to play with in this last week here. So, you're better off putting guys in. Those teams need to win and get in, in order to try and make something happen here. So, because teams that have to win to get in with some positive matchups, things like that, you're going to see them play the full game. You're going to see them really try and do everything they can to make the playoffs there. So, yeah, I like that thought there.
Yeah, you're starting all your Chargers this week. Right, that kind of hammers that. Honestly, if you're in a Week 18 championship, depending on what you're going up against,
Colts.
Josh Jacobs is another guy, right? Like, he's playing for they're playing for their playoff lives. So Hunter Renfrow, Josh Jacobs, two guys that you want to play. The Colts, obviously, Jonathan Taylor. You probably do want to.
I'll tell you this too. Go ahead. I'll let you finish, and then I'll.
I was going to say you want to be careful, I think, with the Colts wide receivers, just because I do think that they are going to say, okay, and just turn around and hand it to Taylor and say, get us to the promised land. So I don't know that Carson Wentz throws the ball more than 25 times against the Jaguars. Like, I don't think you're going to see a 50-6 ball game like you did this past week against the Patriots, but I do think the Colts can win that game, 23-10 and not really have any pressure up against them late besides just turn around, hound it off. And if Taylor can break one, great. And if not, that's okay. We got it in hand.
Playing Taysom over Hurts. Yeah, I would do that myself.
Yeah.
The Eagles dealing with the COVID.
Not.
Okay.
Jalen loves the Cowboys.
It's true.
Jalen loves playing the Cowboys. Now, Taysom's been good, but my as a Taysom Hill owner, my biggest fear is if he has those 3 turnovers and doesn't get in the end zone to balance it out. Now, and the NFC South is a weird division. Like, they do play each other very tightly for the most part, right? Like they do it differently than a lot of other divisions for some reason down south. So I don't see a problem in that, but I do think I would make the call the other way and play Hurts over Taysom, this week, just because I think Jalen Hurts is going to really, really be pushing here, knowing that if they win, there's a chance that they snag a wild card spot here. And yes, the same thing for the Saints, but it's way harder for the Saints to find a way in. Like their shot is like 1 in 1,200 or something like that, where they can find a way to get in. The Eagles, if they win, they're pretty much in with a Niners loss, I think. So it's
the Eagles have already clinched.
They're already in. They're already.
Yeah,
in.
I missed that. I'm sorry, guys.
Their win over
Eagles
Washington
clinched.
got them that, but.
Yeah, they've clinched on that one. They don't have really anything to play for because they can't improve playoff seeding, anything like that. And the fact that team is dealing with a big COVID breakout as well, from what I saw in a lot of those reports, where I think they had something like 20, maybe 10, 15 players test positive yesterday and today.
Yeah, so there's a big COVID outbreak happening in Philadelphia. But I will say this: I think Hurts does have something to play for, because they want to take positive momentum going into the playoffs. It's a young team with a rookie head coach. I think that positive momentum, I think that's something that they need that for their psyche going into the playoffs. So I will say that Hurts probably does have something to play for, and Taysom is such I hate to use the term, but it's a wild card with what you're going to get. You're not sure what performance you're going to get out of Taysom Hill. And it is Atlanta. It's at Atlanta, which is a little, on the scary side, I guess, but the Saints do need to win. And I don't know that I like a Taysom Hill that's pushing versus a Hurts that's playing comfortable and, wants to take positive steps into the postseason. So that's a tough one for me. I'm not so sure. I think I would lean Hurts, because I think Taysom is going to be pushing. Taysom wants to win so badly, and I think that when you're doing that, it can lead to some bad things. The note I was going to make from Kevin, another thing that you may want to look at and see if it's out there, or see if you can find it somehow, some way, for guys that you might be on the fence on. Check to see if there are contract elevators. I know, so famously, right, as we just found out, that Antonio Brown, right, that was the craziest thing I've ever seen, like, in a football game, right? But that decision cost him $1 million. Now, $1 million may not be much to Antonio Brown, because he's made so much money over the course, but he had contract, thresholds that if he would have gotten X amount of yards, X amount of touchdowns, X amount of catches, that triggers money in their contract bonuses, right? So if you can, and you're on the fence about somebody, see if you can't go find somebody who needs to hit some of those contract bonuses, some of those performance-based bonuses, because I guarantee you, guys in the locker room know about that. They absolutely know about that. They have more free time than you think that they do. And those things get talked about. And those guys know exactly what's in their contract and exactly what number they need to get to get that extra money. And that extra money means a lot to a lot of these guys. So,
well, and if they don't, their agent sure does, because their agent's chirping in their ear saying, hey, you need to go buddy up with your quarterback and say, hey, man, I really need some help here. Like,
because the agent gets a cut, right?
Five balls my way, gets me an extra $500,000. Even for these lower tier guys, like that means something. You're getting, these upper tiers,
right?
There's lots of money being won and lost by the players this week themselves.
So those are things that again, like that might play into the decision of some of these guys that play, and some of the guys that you might want in your lineup, because of those contract bonuses that are in there, so those performance-based bonuses. So something to look at, do your due diligence. Games don't start until Saturday. You've got plenty of time to look that up and see what you can see, especially if you're like Bill and you're playing for $500. It'd be worth to know, hey, is this guy still playing for something, or is this guy still playing for something more than just a win and a loss?
So, you know what? Listen to you guys talk. You brought me around. I am on the Jalen Hurts side of this as well. Now, I was looking through some of my projections on this one as well. I've got Jalen Hurts, just under 250 passing yards. I see him finding the end zone twice in this game, one through the air, one with the legs, but he's also going to, I've seen him projected right about 45 rushing yards. So I see him having what will equate to probably a top 10 quarterback performance this week. Taysom Hill, I see him closer to about 200 yards passing, maybe about 30 yards on the ground with only one touchdown. So, I'm going to hop on you guys brought me around and gave me enough time to look that up. So I'm right there with you on the Jalen Hurts side of things. Cool. Any other
pay
thoughts
attention, because Philly has those guys on the COVID list. Some of them are eligible to come off, but pay attention.
Right. Well, the other thing too that helped fuel that decision there as well is Philadelphia can still play spoiler for Dallas. While Philadelphia doesn't necessarily have to go out and they're not going to be able to go out and win and improve their playoffs seeding. A Dallas loss hurts them in playoff seeding there as well. And those being divisional rivals and teams that don't like each other much, they could absolutely go out there and play spoiler on that one. And that is something that they could play for there as well. So.
Ooh, Matt Ryan versus the Saints or Big Ben versus Baltimore. I'm taking Matt Ryan versus the Saints begrudgingly because Big Ben, bless him and his years of service for Pittsburgh and what he's done for that franchise. But oh my gosh, what we're seeing is worse than what we saw with Peyton Manning. And I related to that just because we saw that firsthand, right? Like, it was just bad to see Peyton go out there those last few games. And they won a Super Bowl, so it made up for it. But, man, that is not the image of Peyton Manning that I choose to remember. Ben is worse than that right now. He's absolutely worse than that right now. I'm taking Matt Ryan because I think he's going to try and really feed Pitts and get him these rookie tight end records, like what we were just talking about. I wouldn't be surprised if Cordell Patterson has some sort of boosters in his contract too. And while the Falcons have not been good this year, they've been fighting. Like, some of those losses were bad losses, sure, but the team never gave up. Like, they are trying to change a culture down there a little bit, and whether Matt Ryan's going to continue to be a part of that or not remains to be seen. But I do think he, being Matt Ryan, has a better game against the Saints than Ben does against Baltimore.
I saw a stat that, and I wish I would have paid more attention to it to really grasp the scope of it, but I can't remember how long it was, but I do know that Big Ben is averaging the least amount of yards per completion or attempt. It's 2.6 yards. It is the least amount of any quarterback ever.
Yes.
It's bad. So Big Ben, I think I don't even know that that's a good play anyway. He's just been so not Big Ben. So I would also lean Matt Ryan there because I think there are still those guys are still playing for contract, bonuses.
So, yeah, as much as everybody wants to hop on the Baker train and talk about how bad his play was and all of that last night, which I'm not going to try and defend that it was good or not, but Baker threw the ball less times and had more yardage than Big Ben did in as bad as he looked, right? You take the interceptions away. The quarterback play was fairly similar between the two of them, to be perfectly honest. And when it's all said and done, last night, Big Ben had 46 pass attempts for 123 yards.
It's so bad.
Like that is, you look at, he only completed 24 of those 46 pass attempts. And by the way, he's not throwing the ball very far down the field. His average depth of target is, less than 5 yards. And,
he was sailing guys.
Yes.
He was moonshotting running backs
and
wide receivers coming out into the flat. Like that ball just took off, and it was 20 yards over the head of the wide receiver, and not even remotely close. It was so sad to see, but good for him for going out on a win at Heinz Field. But please start Matt Ryan.
Yeah, it was one of those. It was, watch, guys, I can still throw the deep ball, but nobody was around it. So
the deep ball to the running back that's 3 feet away from him.
Yeah, exactly. All righty. So the Colts defense or the Bengals defense this week? I'm going to go with the Colts defense. They got the nice little matchup against Jacksonville, and they are absolutely got to play to win to get in. So I'm going with the Colts defense here.
Cosign. The Colts defense is the play this week.
Absolutely. Bill saying that Marcus Peters intercepting Peyton towards the end of that year like 3 times. Yeah, it was kind of painful to watch there. Absolutely.
The ducks that he was throwing. My God.
Man.
Yeah. So bad. There was no such thing as a spiral coming out of Peyton Manning. He's like, thank God for Von Miller. Like that. Thank God for Von Miller and that Denver defense. Because, oh my gosh.
Right. So please grade or make changes. Hurts, Deontay, Antonio St. Brown, Dalvin, Jacobs.
I think that's Amon-Ra St. Brown is who I'm thinking that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to say that's Amon-Ra St. Brown there as well. Jacobs, Schultz, Sony, Colts D. I like it. I don't know that I'm going to switch it up from what you've got on the bench. His bench is Cooper, Madison, Pollard, Rojo, Taysom Hill.
Didn't Cooper just tear his ACL or something? No. Who am I thinking of?
That was Michael Gallup.
Thank you. Still.
Different Cowboys receiver.
Yeah.
If you're going to make a change, it'd be Cooper and
Deontay.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I like Deontay a bit more. Like, Big Ben's doing not a whole lot, but Deontay is the apple of Big Ben's eye right now. He seems to be the guy catching the most balls there. So I like that roster. I think that's a hell of a roster to put out for a championship, week. These guys are all still playing for something. Sony. I like Sony in the flex. I don't know. I mean, I am going to be very interested to see what Cam Akers has to offer and see if that's a real thing there. But for what Sony has done these last few weeks, I don't think there's any reason to change that now. So I like that roster. I'd be pretty damn confident with that coming into this week.
Yeah, I would say that Cam Akers, it's going to surprise me if Cam Akers sees more than 5 touches in this game this week. So I'm very, very comfy rolling out Sony.
I hope he sees 10, and I hope he's freaking electric just to watch everybody shit the bed about it. Like, that would make my heart happy because I'm not playing in fantasy playoffs right now, but just to watch Cam Akers go buck wild,
right,
and run one for like 55 yards and run over 4 guys on his way to the end zone.
Yeah, that would be something
people
else.
Would be remembering him like we look back so fondly on Matt Flynn. That's what that would happen.
Exactly. Alrighty, Bill wishing Smokey good luck this week. Absolutely, guys. Go out there and get that cash and trophies. So, guys, we already hit up the championship count there, so we're not going to go through that unless you guys want to throw anything else out that we didn't cover there.
No, I'm still licking my wounds. I don't want to talk about crap anymore. Let's talk about everybody else's
bad season.
Alrighty. So, guys, we are this time of year, we typically, almost all of our championship games are done. Our leagues are done. So we start making the switch over into a lot of DFS to finish off the playoffs here, things like that. And we've started playing some DFS amongst ourselves here. We've got a little DFS game going over on the FanDuel there. So if you guys want to play against the boys here when it's all in a DFS contest, it's a free contest, all of that good stuff. Go ahead and just shoot us a DM on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We'll send you an invite. You can hop in there and play. You're kind of first come, first serve on those ones there. But guys, when we're going through this and you're looking at some DFS type of plays this week, let's go through and let's name.
Who won last week?
That was me.
Did you?
And it wasn't close.
No.
No, it was like 122 to 88.
Oh, yeah.
So, but yep. So we got
Rojo killed me. Yep.
Right. Yeah, I also played the Rojo as well. I also had the Rashad Penny and I had the Rashad Penny goodness though to help make up for that one.
Yeah.
So, alrighty. So guys, yeah, if you want to hop in and play in the good old boys with some DFS and over there on FanDuel, it's a free contest. We're playing for some bragging rights, all that good stuff. Go ahead and just shoot us a DM, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We'll shoot you an invite to hop in there and play. Should be a lot of fun. But guys, let's go ahead and just take a look at some guys that you are looking very hard at as far as putting one guy in on your fantasy roster this week for DFS. Who you liking?
Ooh, buddy. I wasn't prepared for this question, Derek.
I'm sorry. I'll go ahead and go. I've got one.
Who do you like?
All right.
Taylor.
So I'll go ahead.
Jonathan Taylor is a guy that I'm playing. I don't care that he costs, 10.2 on FanDuel. Jonathan Taylor is a guy that I'm playing going up against the Jacksonville defense, knowing that the Colts have to win to get in.
Absolutely. I like it. Mine, I've got a few guys out there that I kind of like. Sneaky play. I'll just give a sneaky play out there is Jarrett Patterson, Washington running back right there. I do believe that you're going to probably see Antonio Gibson get shut down when it's all said and done on the season here. The Washington football team going up against a putrid New York Giants defense there, and he's only $6,600 on FanDuel. And I think that you'll probably see him get somewhere in the neighborhood of about 12 to 15 opportunities, 12 to 15 touches on this one. So it should be a lot of good stuff coming through there. And at that price tag, you can build a lot of extra stuff around your lineup there. MJ23 asking, where can I DM? You can DM us at Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook at Good Old Boys FF. And Bill saying that he may come play us on FanDuel. Absolutely, guys. It's free to play. We're playing for some bragging rights here. We look forward to talking about it next week here as well. We'll hit up the results on Tuesday. Alex, did you find a guy that you like over there on FanDuel?
I'm getting there. Hold on.
Okay. So alrighty. Well, there's some interesting ones out there as well. We've already gone through a lot of these guys that have some decent price tags that we would stay away from, things like that. But absolutely, guys, if you have any questions, anything like that for this fantasy week, all of that, let us know.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know his price. Maybe one of you guys can help me out here, but I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp.
Okay.
10,000.
Yep.
Going top heavy.
Sometimes you got to go top heavy you got to risk it to get the biscuit, to go those top heavy guys there. So I like it. Apparently,
they're going to really feed him to try and get him that record.
They might. They very well might. So he's still got a fair ways to go when it's all said and done, as far as getting to the like the receptions and some of that kind of stuff. But I don't think he's going to get to the touchdowns. But
the Rams yardage touchdown record, I think, is the one that he's after. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you very well might be right there, my friend. So, guys, any other thoughts as far as some of the DFS things like that in order to rock and roll there?
Yeah, I think like kind of like we talked about. I think it's being aware of guys that are playing for things, right? Whether it's escalators or anything else. I Brandon Cooks has been on a bit of a tear lately, so he's a mid-level wide receiver that I do like this week going up against a Tennessee secondary that is improved, but still Davis Mills has looked pretty stinking good, honestly. So Cooks is a guy that you can look at. A guy that I also have a little bit of love for here lately is OBJ is kind of reemerging here with the Rams, and while his yardage doesn't look all that great, he is finding the end zone. So he is another wide receiver that you could take a look at as far as a third wide receiver option. That's $6,500, so it kind of keeps you right there in that balance area in the middle to help build your roster around him.
I like it. I like it a lot. So, absolutely, guys. If you're if you're wanting to play some DFS against us, hop over. Shoot us a DM on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We'll shoot you an invite to the league there and get you going. And we're playing for free, playing for some bragging rights on this one. Bill, to answer your question, no, we will not be on here Saturday morning. Plan will still be that we'll have the Friday night show for you to break down some of the games. We go live 11 p.m. Eastern, as well as the fact that you can catch the normal Sunday pregame show 11:45 a.m. Eastern on this YouTube channel as well. Question coming in here as well. Russell Gage versus Saints, DJ Moore versus Tampa Bay, Devontae Smith against Dallas, Brandon Cooks versus Tennessee. Pick 2 to start.
I like Cooks.
I like
Gage.
Cooks and I like Devontae Smith probably the best. I'm not gonna lie.
I think Cooks, Smith, Gage, Moore in that order for me this week. Like I've lost all faith in Carolina, and unfortunately, my fantasy love affair with DJ Moore is coming to a swift end because I'm just not ready to die on that hill any longer.
I'm just hoping that the offseason treats him right and we see him somewhere else. All right, another question coming in here. Josh Allen, David Montgomery, Elijah Mitchell, Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Schultz, Koo, Tampa Bay is my Super Bowl roster in a 10-man league. I like it. I like that roster a lot heading down through championship week for you. Any other thoughts on that one, guys?
No, I like it. Sorry, I was reading through the roster as you were reading it off. No, I like Josh Allen against the Jets. Obviously, like I do think that Buffalo is going to be trying to, prove a point there that they are holding on. They need to win this game to hold off for the division. So it is a must win if they want the title for the NFC East, or excuse me, the AFC East. Because if they lose and the Patriots win, they lose the home game. So Buffalo is absolutely playing for something this week. So I like the Josh Allen play. My boy St. Brown, I'm all about that. I've been pounding the table for him coming into and through the playoffs. I'm going to continue to hitch my wagon to that train. I like the Elijah Mitchell play. Tyreek Hill should have a good game. I know his conditioning wasn't where he wanted it to be these past couple games coming back from the COVID spout that he had, but I do expect Tyreek to get behind that Broncos defense because that is where they are susceptible, is the deep ball.
Yeah, absolutely. He's playing against Stafford, Aaron Jones, Carter, Kelsey, Chase, Debo. I like your chances in this one. I really like your chances in that matchup there.
I'd agree. I like your roster over this one.
Yep, especially since Carter is hurt on that one. Starting Carson Wentz versus Houston, Derek Carr versus the Chargers. I think I got to go
Carson
Derek
Wentz
Carr.
is playing Houston, then there's an issue. He should
Yeah,
be
they're playing Jacksonville.
I like
So-
Carr. I like
Yeah.
Carr. It's a win and get in situation. I think I trust the fact that Derek Carr will be throwing the ball more than 25 times a game. I don't think Wentz throws it a whole bunch.
Cosign on that. So guys, some other things that we've got cooking there as well, just housekeeping things there. We're going to be announcing the Fantasy Football Awards next week. The voting for that is up on Twitter right now. You can find that in our on our thread over there on Twitter. We've got the candidates for the MVP, the bust, the sleeper, mid-round hero, the rookie, what could have been, the comeback player there. So make sure you guys are hopping over there and voting on those. Voting will close here, and we'll announce the winners before or on the next Tuesday show. But guys, any other kind of thoughts? Anything else we want to chat about? Let folks know about before we call it a night.
No, good luck. I mean, as people continue to have questions and getting ready for a possible championship game here in week 18, let us know. We're more than happy to help. We will do whatever we can. But best of luck to everybody, and hope to hear about a bunch of victory laps come this time next week when we do the show.
Absolutely. Alex, any final thoughts for the listeners?
That was almost one. Good luck. And for the love of God, if you're playing in a Week 18 championship, bitch, moan, complain, write to your senator, change that.
I like it. Alex, I'm also very much anticipating when we're going to get a breakup letters to the Broncos, just FYI. So
we're past it. I have already, dude, I stopped actively seeking out Broncos games weeks ago.
Fair enough. Bill, we appreciate the kind words. He's on YouTube. He's saying, you guys rock, pro advice for sure. We appreciate it. We try and do everything we can for you guys to help you bring those cash and trophies. Do us a favor, hop over to the YouTube channel, tell a friend about it to hop over to the YouTube channel, and, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell to make sure that, you're getting all the notifications. We're going to be winding down our slate of episodes that we bring you guys every single week. But during the off season, we will bring you an episode a week. We go through and we break down all of the teams for the 2022 season, and we'll be really bringing you guys some in-depth information and really hitting that hard throughout the off season. So make sure you're tuning in. We have a killer slate of guests every single off season when we have folks hop on here and help us break down teams. So you don't want to miss it. And the best way to not miss it is to hop over on YouTube, click the subscribe button, ring the bell, hit the follow button, subscribe button, wherever you're listening or watching this. We very much appreciate you guys chiming and tuning in. But I do think that that's going to bring us down here to an end. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, send us your questions, all of that good stuff over there at Good Old Boys FF. He's Kevin. He's Alex. I'm Derek. I got it right again. Have a good one. Be safe.